There's something you might notice when you walk around London. New buildings are in abundance and are continuing to be built. But in the midst of this constantly evolving city, you notice these old buildings. They stand out and leave you wondering how they've stood the test of time. So what's the secret behind their survival, and what happened to the other medieval buildings? Turns out the reason is more important than we might think. And to get a better sense of it all, it's crucial we understand when these buildings were first built. In the 1600s, London was one of the largest cities in the Western world, home to over 300,000 inhabitants. But in the year 1666, something happened that would change their city forever. In the early hours of September the 2nd, a baker's shop on Pudding Lane unexpectedly caught fire. To make matters worse, the fire spread rapidly due to the strong winds at the time. Everyone's nightmare soon became a reality, because in just 5 days, the highly populated medieval city was flattened within its walls, destroying over 13,000 houses. To help visualise the scale of this disaster, let's use a recent map of the City of London. The highlighted section in red shows the extent of the Great Fire. As you can see, the fire destroyed almost everything within the old city limits, and almost nothing survived. At this point, the City of London was left with almost nothing. But as we've already established, there were a select few buildings that somehow managed to escape the flames. 13,000 buildings had fallen, but these few survivors stood tall, which we can still see today. But how exactly did they survive? Well, for some buildings, a change in wind direction was enough to spare them just in time. For others, there needed to be fire breaks created. This was done through the demolition of surrounding houses to prevent the spread of the fire. These remnants, some of which are over 600 years old, are more than just buildings. They embody the struggles of the city and the evolution they were forced to go through. Preserving such significant landmarks required meticulous care and protection. So how exactly did London safeguard its heritage? By the late 1880s, the ball finally started rolling. 1882 saw the introduction of the Ancient Monuments Protection Act. This was a legislation aimed to safeguard ancient structures and would lay the groundwork for future heritage protection laws. But in the 1940s, a brand new problem emerged. World War II loomed large over the entire world, and London in particular was affected massively by German bombings. Following the Blitz in 1940, many famous landmarks were hit, including Buckingham Palace and the Tower of London. This was a relentless assault. It painted a picture of how helpless architectural heritage can be. Once again, London's landmarks were in jeopardy, and the government's response was needed. In 1947, they introduced the Town and Country Planning Act, a legislation which provided a formal way of designating buildings of special importance. This would later be known as listed buildings. Viewing these listed buildings gave us a glimpse of the craftsmanship, innovation, and cultural essence that defined historical periods. You see, London before the Great Fire was medieval. However, trying to find a building dating back to before 1666 is an exceptional task, which is why spotting one gives you a unique experience. One of these rare buildings is located in the south side of High Holborn, called Staple Inn. Staple Inn is a juxtaposition of the modernised structures around it, with a distinctive timber-framed facade in black and white, topped by a cruck roof. It's one of 4 Tudor buildings still remaining in London. This design used to be so common in the medieval period. Now it serves as a time machine of what the city used to look like 500 years ago. Another Tudor building which survived is St Bartholomew Gatehouse. This is a gatehouse which went through multiple near destructions. At first, the walls of a nearby priory shielded it from the Great Fire of London. And in 1916, a bomb from a German Zeppelin exploded right in front of the building, but was too far away to knock it down. Walking past it today, it's almost surreal to think of what it has endured. Yet it still stands, quietly carrying the weight of history. Even older than these structures is a church located in Aldgate. When you think about this part of London, what comes to mind is towering skyscrapers. But in the midst of this financial district is a little old church called St Helens Bishopsgate. This construction emerged unscathed from the Blitz during World War II, however the church wasn't immune to all disasters. In the early 1990s, it suffered significant damage from 2 IRA bombings, requiring extensive restoration work. Today, St Helens presents a striking juxtaposition against the modern skyline, showing how old and new structures can both coexist for our viewing pleasure. But this isn't the only church in the area which embodies resilience. St Andrew Undershaft is also located in the shadows of the London skyline. Its architectural style is known as Perpendicular Gothic, which contrasts sharply with the contemporary towers all around. But we mustn't forget London's oldest substantial building. While it technically wasn't in the City of London itself, the Tower of London is by far the most popular survivor of the Great Fire of London, visited by thousands every day. But its legacy was very close to being non-existent. It turned out that the flames came very close to the fortress, which was destined to suffer the same fate as the rest of the buildings. But in a pivotal moment, the tower's guard managed to create a firebreak by blowing up nearby buildings. With a building packed to the brim with gunpowder, the Tower of London could have been nothing but a crater. Ultimately, these listed buildings aren't just relics of the past, but symbols of resilience and continuity of London's rich heritage. They've become such a big part of the city's identity, and their preservation has been much needed. One thing seems clear today. As the world continues to evolve, it's old buildings which draw more people in with their history, charm and presence.